But what's it like to actually be on an island?
Wow, this is just so beautiful. When I was walking solo, that was as wild as there was no road access. Once you're on the beach, there's a death trap. Can't go backwards because 250 kilometers to civilization. And
When you go on a journey, you can't bring everything that you want. So, what lesson did you learn of importance of things?
when you are limited with the things that you have, you appreciate those things a lot more.
Don't get out of your comfort zone. Don't step into every day the unknown. So, how did you train your brain to basically not listen to it?
That was a tough one.
How do you go from training and being ultra disciplined and mindful of time and using your time to the best extent?
Knowing what's important and eliminating all the junk. I think all that extra weight that we carry in life, we don't actually need 90% of the stuff that we have in our homes.
How do you conquer that internal voice when things get really tough?
I think
Are you looking for actionable insights from the world's most inspiring individuals? The Built by Love podcast is on a mission to transform your life, your business, and your health. Tune in for impactful conversations with people who do business differently. Avoid burnout, acquire freedom, and live life fully on your own terms. With me, your host, Daniel Bussius, alongside my co-host, Richard Varga. Mario, it's an absolute pleasure to have you on the Built by Love podcast. Thank you for taking some time to come out on the podcast today.
Yeah, such a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me, Daniel and Rich. This has been a great experience so far.
Thank
With
you.
the technical issues and whatnot.
Yeah. It's funny. I always joke with
It's only going to get better.
Yeah, I always joke with people. I'm like, we can build an international space station. We can build, all kinds of AI, but we can't figure out technology to come together on a podcast or do a video call without updates or something breaking. So there you go.
Yeah, it's honestly it's really wild. I think what's happening is that they're constantly changing how we connect, and so as soon as you're used to one way of connecting, like with the wired microphones and whatnot, then it's all of a sudden Bluetooth, and then it's a new thing, and then it's Wi-Fi all over the place.
That's a great point.
Yeah.
We could have a whole podcast on that, actually. Just
Yeah.
tech continually undermining us.
That's it. Yeah. Because we're always striving for greater, better, more efficiency.
You're right. Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny. I run a digital agency, and so I should be fully stepped into that realm. But I'm actually finding myself stepping out of it. Not necessarily for my clients, for the marketing strategy, but just for my personal life. Like, I'm trying to go back to more analog. So I'm like looking at buying an iPod where if I want to go to the gym, I don't want distractions. I just want to listen to music. I don't want anything else.
Yeah.
So I'm starting to look at things like that, where it's like there is peace in having something that's simplistic. So
100%. I mean, it must be really hard to find these analog devices as well. And they're probably overpriced right now, and I'm assuming this is becoming a popular trend too. So, because I started
yeah,
looking into those like Casio watches and whatnot, and they're priced pretty
Yeah.
high right now.
Those got
I
trendy.
it's funny you said that. I literally was doing that.
Yeah. But it is an interesting segue though
Well-
too, because you've ended up encountering a lot of people that sort of haven't been encumbered by the digital life. I'm curious, do you think their lives are better enhanced living this way, or do they suffer less
Great
depression? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, yeah, encumbered is an interesting word for that, because there was one time I was I was sitting in a compound in a village in Mozambique, and you know they were living in a mud house. And in order for me to get invited, I have to essentially just stand in front of this compound for a certain amount of time. And the matriarch of the family will eventually approach me. And of course, I didn't speak, they speak Portuguese over there, and I didn't speak their language. And, but I had a translator. So I called this person, and, I said, like, can you translate to this lady? She wants, I've been standing outside for about hours now, and I need and I need a place to stay. And so she finally invited me into her home, and it was just such a beautiful experience. And I realized that, the kids that were doing their homework were actually doing their homework on, like, we're talking like full out essays and whatnot. They were doing it on a flip phone that was just like, no, no, those little tiny Nokia flip phones. And the buttons were broken because they've used it so many times that they were using toothpicks.
Gee.
They used
Wow.
toothpicks to write an essay. And
Wow.
I was just thinking, like, holy, you know. So in a way, like, I feel like for a lot of people, technological advancement is beneficial, so long as, like, we don't kind of like do what we're doing here, which is like, just advancing for no reason at all. Just maybe just for the sake of, like, oh, here's the latest new phone that I have, and look how fancy I am. I think that's when we kind of get lost with the technological. That's when we get lost with the technological advancements. But over in Africa, I think they use it more of a tool than anything else. Like, even like money transfers, they use a technology that we don't even have here in North America, which is they transfer money with just a cell phone. You don't need a bank account. You don't need
Wow.
any of that kind of stuff. You don't need a passport. You just literally send the money to a number that you want to send it to, and you can do that. And and I've done it a number of times in order to exchange some goods. So I would say that if there is a culture that would probably adapt technology to their fullest extent, I think Africa, especially because it's like one of the fastest growing continents on the planet right now. It's the last continent to become developed. And right now, if you know anything about what's happening on the continent of Africa, it's happening at an insane speed. Like, there are being highways built everywhere, and major cities being built, and innovations left, right, and center. And these, 65% of those people there are under the
Whoa.
age of 25, and they're set to exponentially grow to about 4 billion people in the next 50 years. So, I
Yeah.
mean, that's something to look out for from a all kinds of standpoint, especially from a technological standpoint, because we're gonna receive technology from there that we've never even probably even fathomed here in the West.
I think there's a point where you start to lose a bit of your humanness, if that's even a word, with embracing so much of technology. And Mario, when you're talking about Africa, reminds me. I think it was about 5 years ago that I was a contestant in the world's toughest race, which was in Fiji. And our squall came in, and our boat had sunk out in the middle of the Pacific Ocean. So we were then disqualified. You can't call for help in the race, and so they brought us into a camp in between, like in the island, and there's only one road in. There was no power, no electricity, and it was a base camp for the production crew for as the race was moving through. And so we had to stay there for 24 hours because we had to do exit interviews. Well, anyways, so we've got nothing to do, right? There's nothing there. We don't have cell phones, there's no internet, and there's just a river right by us. So I noticed on the other side of the river, the tribe, like the locals, all came down and they were sitting at the bank of the river watching because there's a helicopter there. Bear Grylls was flying in and out of the helicopter. They were filming, and so they just started like beating drums. They were drinking kava and they're hanging out. And they put up like a little tarp, and there was the men, and then the women had to sit in their own tarp. And so finally, I said to my teammates, I was like, man, we got to go over there. So we went over there and we had a conversation with them, and they were very kind. They invited us to sit in their circle. We hung out for probably 3 hours, and I had such an amazing time. We were just sitting there. There really wasn't very much conversation happening, a little bit, but we were just like embracing, like we were in this beautiful remote area. Again, no electricity, no cars, nothing like that. We're just sitting by the river, like just hanging out. Like
Mm,
I could almost barely fathom that in the United States or Canada or anywhere else, unless you're mindful that you're going to go camping and get away from that. But even then, you're going to bump into people with phones and they're taking photos.
mhm.
I think that's my point. Is I think we're starting to lose part of our humanity because we're embracing so much technology. I know that's not the
Yeah.
point of our conversation today, but it's an interesting perspective that I had to bring up because you've experienced it literally across the world.
Hmm. Yeah. Um, when I was walking solo along the Transkei, which is the wilderness coast in South Africa, that was as wild can get. Like there were no road access. Once you're on the beach, there's a death trap, meaning that you can't go backwards because 250 kilometers to civilization, and you'll run out of food at 50 kilometers, and
Wow.
you have another 150 kilometers left to go. You can't go into the ocean because you don't have a boat or anything like that, and you can't go inland because that's even worse. And then you're going through scrubs, bush, and all kinds of land that's just inaccessible to humans. And then you would see from time to time, people living off the land, like
Yeah.
people who are literally living out there. And they tend to really have a calmness about them that's different than the way that we move through life. Like we're constantly hungry, we're constantly looking to not just necessarily like always take the pictures for no reason, but we're always trying to like set a narrative, right?
Mm.
As opposed to just being. And that's the difference that I found between us and a lot of people who don't have a lot of access to technology. Is the difference of like, well, we probably have this technology because of the culture that we have created, which is this culture of like consumerism,
Mhm.
and what produces more like, you know what I mean, like what produces more content for us, which is like these phones and things like that. And we were
Yeah.
just talking about microphones, even talking. It's just like we're creating content to consume more and more, and so we strive to perfect these devices and tools to get even more and more efficiently. So we have like these cameras that can just like, they're tiny and they can like stay on my necklace or be pinned on my shirt, and like with the GoPro, and I can just like record everything that's going on. But then when you're doing that, you have the mindset of, well, I need to make sure that the story arc is
You're
going
curating
well,
it.
so you're never
Yeah.
really there, you're never really present. Exactly. And so when you're doing that, you're not really going to a place to explore. You're kind of being you're
To-
being like a what do you call it, an
Yeah.
all-inclusive resort tourist in a
Mhm.
way.
It's interesting when I brought up something. I'm sure this is going to come in more, but when you started describing that walk, and just sort of like how these little outcrops of life develop, it just to me just became so fundamental and elemental on how your day becomes, because your day then is just oriented around light, the daylight itself. The night is the end. So I'm curious, how do you go from
Mm.
training and being ultra disciplined and mindful of time and using your time to the best extent, and then taking that forward, and then sort of now you're not in control of your time as much. It's something that's greater than you. And how does that affect your orientation on your day, your life as you go forward?
I think it's really easy. You create a plan, a structure, and you follow it as best as you can. You don't, fault yourself too much if you don't follow it every single day. I think you have to be easy on yourself. You're not
You didn't start your business to be a full-time marketer. You started it to take control of your future and live life on your own terms, to earn abundantly, and to make a positive impact in this world. But somewhere along the way, funnels, lead magnets, landing pages, and email sequences became your second job. At Built by Love Agency, we get it, and we've got you. We specialize in done-for-you marketing that speaks your brand, sells your services, and brings in your dream clients without you lifting a finger. Whether you're ready to scale or just tired of duct taping your marketing together, it's time to hand it over to the pros. We've been in business since 1998 and have worked with over 1,000 brands, ranging from Fortune 500 companies to small businesses with visions to change the world. Our experience in what we do runs deep, and our multiple awards, accolades, and decades of happy clients shows what we do for our clients works. Visit BuiltByLove.com today to schedule your discovery call so you can get back to doing the work you love. An agency you'll love, results you'll love even more. BuiltByLove.com.
We're not machines, and even machines mess up sometimes. So as human beings, you have to know that, you have to be a little bit more forgiving to yourself and to others as well. So, I would wake up early in the mornings, and like I would start my walks at like 4:30 or 5 a.m. and I would probably clock in 40 to 50 kilometers per day on average. And I did it like clockwork. But when there were situations that called for a change of plans, on the spot, I would actually do that. So that could be like someone would randomly invite me and to their home, and they wanted me to live with them and their families for a couple of days. And from time to time I would accept that. Most of the time I would say no, but then when I really felt like the pull and there's like a natural flow, I would say yes. And I would make the time to connect with these people. Or there would be times where I'm just like, wow, this is just so beautiful. It's just awe-inspiringly beautiful, and you just want to sit, and you're like, I'm just gonna soak all this in. This is worth more than following the plan or the strategy. You know. Um, the thing is, I think we like to focus a lot on the details, and and the things that are going wrong. It feels like that's everything that's going on to you and the plan at the moment, and that's not really the reality. The reality is you're just being delayed a little bit. So that's it. At the end goal will still be met. It's just maybe the next day you go a little bit extra. You do extra kilometers, or you walk a little faster, or you can spread it out over a week. Remember, I'm walking for 2.5 years, so if I spend a week not walking, then I would spend the next
Oh,
month not taking a rest. And then so it kind of like equals out at the end again. So it's always just kind of like recalibrating, so that you work in a more naturalistic flow as opposed to a rigid structure. That discipline helps you in the sense of like getting you in that direction, that arrow, that path. But letting go and being fluid allows you to really, I think, flow with the journey a little bit better. Like even an arrow moves through the wind. Like they say, like an arrow, like if it spins, it shoots in a direction a lot better, and then even the
yeah.
wind affects it and things like that. So even an arrow doesn't go directly straight, and then gravity forces it to go down. So it's the same thing.
I want to kind of take a step back for a moment because I'm already starting to think of like a bunch of questions to talk about through your journey, the end of the journey, like lessons. But you've had a remarkable upbringing. You were born and raised in Turks and Caicos, right?
Hmm.
And yes, or
Yeah, I was born in Turks and Caicos. I moved when I was 2 to Germany, and then I moved back when I was 10 to Turks and Caicos again.
yeah, and then now currently you're living in Canada.
Hmm.
So, I mean, outside of just being a world traveler, you're also kind of like you've lived all over the world. Um, what was it? What was it like being born and then raised? Obviously coming back to Turks and Caicos. I mean, I've been there. It's a beautiful island. It's probably the most prettiest water I've ever seen in the world. What's it like to first live on an island? Most of the listeners here probably visited an island for a week and stayed in all inclusive. But what's it like to actually be on an island? Because Turks and Caicos is kind of out there on its own in regards to like the Caribbean island chain.
Yeah, so Turks and Caicos is technically a desert island, and so we receive very little rainfall per year, except for hurricane seasons. And I feel like Turks and Caicos is one of those few places in the world where you can go there and time slows down
Hmm.
in a way, and it's almost therapeutic because the behavior of the people there is also, it seems, very authentic. No one has anything to hide, or there's no facade. Like, I would say the masks come off in Turks and Caicos more often than, say, in most Western countries, because in the Western countries, like, we're always like personifying ourselves as like a character that we need to perform. But over there, because it's got that like small village, small island mentality, that mask is all of a sudden gone, and you can be your authentic self, and that in itself is therapeutic, right? And then you have now the beautiful sun, the heat, and we have a lot of sea breeze that comes from the ocean as well, so that's salt. And couple that with the seawater that's surrounded and protected by the third largest coral reef system in the world.
Yep.
So you're basically cocooned in this like insanely therapeutic paradise. And it's had a lot of history. Like, if you go back in time, the Arawaks and the Tano people lived here. Before that, it was just a barren land. And then Christopher Columbus had landed here as well. Him and his brother lived in Grand Turk, which is one of the islands that I lived. It's the island that I lived on. And so it has a lot of like explore history, in the sense that I forgot the name of the astronaut who he was the first American to circumnavigate the world. He might be the first person to have done that, and from space, right? So he
Yep.
circumnavigated the Earth in space, and then he landed in Grand Turk, Turks and Caicos. Then there was this deep sea diver. I forgot his name as well. I should get the the facts, but you can look it up. Then there was the deep sea diver. He was one of the first deep sea divers in the world to go like something like 1,000 feet below or something like that. And he also Turks and Caicos. When the British and the Russians, I think during World War II, when they fought, the submarines, because Turks and Caicos is actually on a mountain, a massive mountain, and we're at the peak of it, at the very top. But there are cliffs that go like sheer cliffs that go down like this, and inside those cliffs, on the water, there are caves. And so, what during World War II, what the enemies used to do to each other, they would hide in those caves, and that's how they become undetected, right?
Wow.
So, there's a lot of like really cool, crazy history there. Even the Americans, they used to have their military base in Grand Turk as well. So it was a very profitable set of islands back in the day, because when they had sailboats, we used sisal plants, which are these they kind of have really long fibrous strings, and these sisal plants were used to make rope for sailing. And then we had salt, and so these and cotton as well. So we had cotton, salt, sisal. These were the three largest products and industry at the time. And so Turks and Caicos was like hugely profitable at the time. And and then now it's hugely profitable as a tourist destination, as a luxury destination. So insane history. So that's just like the background of Turks and Caicos on its own. But to live there, what has been like such a beautiful experience. Like you as a kid, imagine just being free and you know every day me and my brother we would go out into the bush and we would just like basically scavenge and look for new fruits and vegetables and we would like walk along the coast and we would like collect um uh not sorry, what do you call it, conch shells. We would go fishing. Like it was just like all these like really awesome natural, I think, environmental connections that I've had since a kid that really resonated with me, and that's why I think I love what I do today. Because Turks and Caicos was really kind of the training ground for me to explore land and understand, like how dirt feels and, like, and how to like trek for long distances and, and how to be in like conditions that are really harsh because, the desert island life can be very, it can be very hot and very dry at times. So imagine being like out there for so long. So it really trained me to withstand these kinds of conditions. And I think that's what prepared me for everything that I do today.
And what got you started on that 2.5 year journey? Was that the first journey that you decided to do, or was there one that preceded that?
So that was actually the first journey that I decided to ever do. And it was kind of like a discovery in a way. Like I thought to myself, I was at the end of sorry, one second, I'm just plugging in my phone here because the battery just showed that it was low. Um, there was a moment of, I guess, we can call it early or midlife crisis, what most of us would call it, and I think we all go through that, like when we just like kind of sit back and think like, what have I done with my life, and where am I going with this? And I feel like most people just kind of like suck it up and they say like, oh, I just got to try harder and be better because this is the blueprint that has been showed to me, and I need to follow this blueprint.
Right. Yeah.
And I decided that I don't want to follow a blueprint because it's never made me happy. I cannot you know work behind a desk. I have to be outside. I have to push my body. I have to seek new cultures and understand what the world is all about. And so I went through like a really deep depression for a couple of years, and I didn't really understand why. And so one year I decided to do a hard focus on understanding where it is that I am, what it is that I love, and where do I need to go from now, or where do I need to go from here. And so that's when I decided to unravel a lot of things that I used to love as a kid, and that's essentially what led me to what I'm doing today. Is like going back to childhood. It's like, well,
Yeah.
what did you love doing unconditionally? Like if money were no object, what would you do? And I said I would travel, explore the world, and share like beautiful stories with people. And this is exactly what I went out and did. And I wanted to make it a living as well. So I think I wanted I wanted like a fast track career development in a way, right? Without going to university. And for me, that was like, well, what's one thing that, you know, no one's really done the way that I've done it, which is to walk solo one shot from Cape Town to Cairo. And I started to research, I started to look around. It's like, who's been doing it? It's like, okay, cool. There's like some people who've like done it in groups or as a couple, and some people have done it and they've left and they've come, and some people have done it and then they disappeared off the face of the earth. So I don't know what happened to them. And so you wonder, you're like, okay, cool, this gap is open for me, and I took that opportunity. But I think mainly I've always just wanted to go to Africa. I wanted to explore the
You've built the business, you've made the money, but deep down, you know that's not why you're here. You're here to rise, to embody elite health, to deepen the love you give and receive, to lead with purpose, to leave a legacy that outlives you. Rise Tribe is where affluent entrepreneurs like you align wealth with wisdom, hustle with harmony, power with purpose. This is not another mastermind. It's a movement, an inner circle of elite, high-performing leaders who demand more from life, from love, from themselves. Curated, private, invite only. Live virtual workshops on health, wealth, and expansion. Conversations that awaken your soul. Connections that elevate you. But here's the truth. Not everyone gets in. And for a limited time, membership is complimentary.
the roots of humanity in a way that I could feel the earth and feel the ground. And I knew that that would be my coming of age journey in a way.
It's you brought up a
What
oh
was
sorry
the? Oh, yeah. Go ahead, Rich.
just because our last chat was about a neuroscientist that specialized in depression, and we were discussing about sort of every day doesn't really need to be a sunny day. Like your life is not really supposed to have a constant smiley face. And there is value, I think, in going through uncertainties or depression. I think in your case, correct me if I'm wrong, I'd love to hear obviously your perspective on this, but it sounds like you did battle this for a couple of years too, which can be debilitating, but it sounds like the depression for you just sort of recalibrated you and got you thinking more fundamentally on what just makes you happy, and that was lacking. And so I'm curious what your take is on depression, and maybe it almost as a positive force, and not to minimize anyone that's going through anything like that. A clinical depression can be debilitating, but I'm curious what you think about its capacity to redirect your life.
I think depression is unnoticed by a lot of people, actually. And I think they go through life thinking that the way they feel is normal and that that it's okay. But you have to understand, and I'm not a neuropsychologist or anything like that, so I can't tell people like what to look out for. But I know that for myself, that depression came out in ways of like doing harmful things, like to myself, and not being healthy, not making the right life decisions or choices that lead to what ultimately is my purpose, and or even chasing happiness in fact could lead to depression, because when you're chasing happiness, you're not really happy all the time, right? And when you're not happy, then you're like, why am I not happy? And then that compounds
Yeah.
the whole reason of you not being happy. But I think ultimately what I was looking for was purpose and drive. I wanted to go after something that I would be willing to be unhappy for, and or I would be willing to suffer for. And that really is what gave me like this new shot in life. It's like, whoa, okay, I got to do something that is something that resonates with me on a deep level, and I get to share it with the world. So it's like bigger than myself as well, in a way, because I get to learn about different cultures around the world, and I have to be careful of how I share that information, and the stories that these people carry, I think is very important. So, that gave me like a really deep sense of purpose. And you're right, like you don't have to be happy every single day. And I think when you're living a life of purpose, you're not seeking happiness, because you find joy and doing what you do. And there's going to be tough days, and those are to be expected. If there aren't any tough days, you know then maybe that's what actually depresses you, because you're not being challenged enough. But understanding also what depression looks like just either going to a therapist, or reading some books, or studying online on what are some of the signs of depression. I think that in itself can unlock most of the answers that you've been looking for, in terms of like, how do you get out of depression? Because first you have to acknowledge what they are to you, what are the causes, and then start to slowly build your way to getting out of it. And it's a journey. And it's never going to be like completely gone. Like, I can still be depressed, like, oh, I'm not meeting deadlines, and all this kind of stuff. And I'm not at the, what do you call it, at that point of being a Buddhist monk, where you have like, you're at a higher consciousness at that level. And sometimes I will have those moments, and then sometimes I won't. Maybe I'll like slump back down to the person who just gets like irritated by just the smallest little things. But the difference is that it's how you get out of those slumps, really, that's the important part. Because again, like the journey itself, like the error that I was talking about, or the discipline, it's never going to be perfect, but how you get back on it, I think that's the most important part. It's, so quickly realizing what it is what you're being depressed about, or knowing that you are depressed, and then knowing how to like get back on track. I think those are the most important things that any person can possess.
When you go on a journey, you can't necessarily bring everything you want.
Hmm.
Are you still there? Okay.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, you can hear me?
Yeah. No, you blacked out for a second. So
Oh, okay. Yeah. I had a notification, so.
when you go on a journey, you can't bring everything that you want. So what lesson did you learn of importance of things? Right? For two
Mm.
and a half years, it's not like I'm going to bring my book collection and I'm going to bring this and that. So what did you learn from that in regards to the importance of things? And yeah.
Well, I think, well, this more than most people, because when you did the world's toughest race, you bring your literally the most essential things, right? And I think it really starts to play a role in like what is really important and what isn't. And I think also respecting and having gratitude. So, okay, so bringing let me break it down. So one is knowing what's important and eliminating all the junk. I think all that extra weight that we carry in life, we don't actually need 90% of the stuff that we have in our homes. And once we get rid of those things, I think you're in a better pathway to navigating your life in a more fluid way, because you're not hanging on to these things, and it's just extra work, right? And then the other thing too is when you are limited with the things that you have, you appreciate those things a lot more. So you have gratitude, and you have appreciation, and so you care for those things a lot more, and you see it as a tool, or you see it as a really sentimental piece, not just as an extra item. And for me, I became very close and attached to a lot of the things that I had in my backpack, because I carried it for 2.5 years across some of the most like harsh terrain that you can imagine. And a lot of them actually still survived. It was it was until I made it to, I traveled to San Francisco
Oh,
shortly after my
jeez.
trip, and
Gosh.
that's when all my stuff got stolen.
Jeez.
Uh,
So there's an
Yeah, everything
indictment
got
on.
stolen. So it's
Thanks, San Francisco.
it was San Francisco, and it hurt me pretty bad, because they had my passport, they had my laptop, they had everything. Yeah, my
Oh,
camera that had a lot of photos and pictures and things like that as well.
man.
So yeah, that was a hard pill to swallow, and those were all the things
Oh,
that I
gosh.
owned in my life. So it
On
was
behalf
basically
of
robbing my home.
California, we want to apologize.
Yeah, that was
We
a
are
tough one.
sorry. Yeah. Yes. And that is
Yeah,
brutal to
Are you
hear.
guys in
That
Are you guys in
literally hurts
California?
me.
Oh,
It's
you
like,
yeah,
are.
yeah. Not San
Uh,
Francisco though. So
okay, I see. But so imagine 2.5 years, you're in a place where everyone told you that people are gonna rob you, steal from you, and hurt you, and they're, savage people. And what I found is that they were completely the opposite of everything that I've learned and heard from what my friends, family, and strangers have told me. Um, and yeah, and I think they have the same amount of respect just because it's not as yet a materialistic culture as we are. And so the few things that they do have, I think they have that same kind of care for it and gratitude. And I could see it in the way that they, like the guy with the flip phone and the toothpick. Like I could tell, like he was really maximizing this technology to its ultimate limit, beyond its limit actually, because it wasn't designed to have
yeah.
missing buttons and then you use a toothpick. That was you're supposed to throw that away, or have it fixed. But he went above and beyond what that device could have been used for after it got damaged. And so I felt the same way, and this really taught me a lot of like, I would say it taught me to be more intuitive and creative with the tools that I had, when they also got damaged and whatnot. Like, there were times where I had blisters in my heel because I'm wearing boots. I was wearing those military boots. And the band-aids were, the fancy band-aids, that you get,
Oh,
they didn't work at all. So what I ended up using was just duct tape.
yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
And
that's what I
duct
was
tape
thinking
is
you were
Yeah.
like,
gonna say.
yeah,
I knew it. I was
exactly.
like, you got to have a
Yeah.
roll of duct tape.
Right, right. Roll of duct tape is probably the most essential tool that you can have, because it literally just fixes everything. You know, if you broke your stick, take some duct tape, put it together.
You can
That's
make a
funny.
cup
And
with
and
duct tape.
quickly, you can make a cup. You can literally do anything. Yeah, you can make all kinds of things. You can make a strap, so and I used it because the outside of it is really smooth, and so there's no friction, and so that when you're walking, your boots are just slipping in the back of the duct tape, but then it's sticking to your skin, so that's less irritation for your skin. Yeah, so I feel like
That's a
the
great
less
point.
you have in life, I think the more you have, to be honest. I know that sounded like strange to say, but yeah, the less you have, the more you have. Because then you get to actually experience life and you're less distracted by all this weight that you have to keep an eye on.
So you had an unfortunate situation in the urban jungle here, and again, it's awful to hear. But I'm curious, how did you? It seems like you're very intuitive. You have a peace about you. I think you can, I think just the calmness that you have and peace is something people probably pick up on. Curious though, how did you ever come across animals that were a threat? Did you like how do you navigate that going forward?
That was a tough one, because I did encounter a number of times some really large animals like elephants and
Oh, jeez.
hippos, crocodiles, massive crocodiles, and like ostriches, surprisingly, and giraffes and whatnot, a
Oh
hyena as
gosh.
well.
What if the real secret to explosive business growth wasn't found in tactics, trends, or tech, but in something far more primal? Something every human being craves: love. Real, genuine, emotional connection. You've tried the funnels, you've chased the hacks, you've burned money on ads that promised magic but delivered mediocrity. It's not your fault. You've been sold noise when what your marketing needs is music. This book changes everything. Rooted in behavioral science and built on the same relationship-based marketing formulas used by billion-dollar brands, this time-tested framework doesn't just teach you how to market, it transforms the way you see your customers. You'll learn how to turn cold traffic into loyal fans, how to spark love at first scroll, and how to build an unshakable bond that makes your brand unforgettable. Because in a world drowning in gimmicks, authenticity is your unfair advantage. This isn't theory. It's the engine behind some of the fastest growing businesses in the world. And it's helped smart entrepreneurs like you build tribes, not just audiences. Agencies use it, CMOs swear by it, buyers can't put it down. It's won multiple awards, and it's climbing the charts because real marketing that connects always wins. So stop chasing attention, start building love, and watch your business take off. Grab your copy now at Target.com, Amazon.com, Barnes & Noble retail stores, or anywhere quality books are sold. Your future customers are waiting for love. It's time to give it to them. Get your copy of Marketing Built by Love today.
And however, the hyena was injured, so that's a whole different story. But um, so each place that I go to, I try to find the experts. So like it would be like a ranger or someone working at a safari, and I would, you know, stay in contact with them via social media or word of mouth, and they would naturally come to me because they would hear about my journey, and especially in South Africa and well, actually all along throughout Eastern Africa, people would pick up on these stories and they would come out and find you. And so I had this one ranger find me, and he told me how to like essentially subdue a large wild male elephant if it's coming at you at full speed. And he showed me the technique of what you need to do, And so I just when it happened, I just applied that technique
Oh
and
my
it actually
gosh.
worked. So I'm not saying that it would work 100% of the time. And I was probably very lucky in the moment, but I was walking in Mozambique and a large bull elephant approached me. Actually, it didn't approach me. I approached it, and it was just this gigantic. It was like the largest animal I've ever seen in my life, and I didn't even know something
Wow.
could be that big. And it was trying to hide behind a tree, which was comical in a sense. Very comical. But you could tell that it was like a male elephant because trunks and all that kind of stuff, and it's also sweating through its adrenal glands, so you can see the sweat coming down its eyes,
Wow.
salivating in the ears and stuff like that. And so it's a teenage male elephant going through puberty, and it was that's their aggressive stage, and they're kind of living their rebellious lives. And it's very similar to human beings. You have the young chaps, they're just like trying to
Just
like show you what's up. But most of the time they're just harmless. They're just like little kids being kids. And this elephant was, kind of very much kind of being the same way. So it was just trying to like intimidate me in a way at one point, and it tried. the first time, and I did that thing that the guy did, and I'm butchering when I'm about to demonstrate, but like I did it in a lot more demanding way. But essentially, just like I was like, "Hey, boy," slowly, like with a strong, stern voice, like, "Hey, boy, slow down, back up," like just keep talking in a like really um commanding voice, which I find that animals translate that in a way. I think there's like a universal way that we all communicate. And if you know that, um, then I think that that can help you a lot in the wild. Again, not saying that this is, a situation. 'Cause they are wild animals and anything can happen and they're unpredictable, right? It just happened to work in this scenario. And I was able to walk away from this situation unscathed, except for the fact that my soul had left my body. That's how scared I was. Like, literally, probably shitting my
That's
pants at the
crazy.
time. It was definitely one of the scariest moments I've ever had.
He
Like
retreated, or he just sort of held his ground but
he
didn't
he
advance.
he held his ground.
Yeah.
He did, yeah. He held his ground. He didn't advance. And as soon as I saw it kind of put his head down a little bit like that, I was like, okay, good. I think I'm good.
Wow.
Like you just have that feeling. Like you don't know, but like you have a feeling. You're like, I think this means it's okay.
Yeah.
So we understand each other. It's like, all right, you cool. You do your thing. I'm gonna do my thing. I'm gonna go away from you,
Yeah.
and that's it. And that was it. Yeah, so that was pretty. That was fun actually. That was a really scary experience because I was completely by myself. There were no homes. There were no. There was this one dirt road, and there was just nothing around me. Like had something happened, then I don't know. I probably would have been found a day or two later.
Wow.
Did you ever encounter lions?
Unfortunately, I didn't encounter lions except for safaris. And, in the safari, they're safe and they're doing their thing. And usually, if you're in a safari, I've been actually in a few different safaris. And one of them, funny enough, I walked into by mistake. And then I can't, and I only found out that I was in this whole safari when I left because they were like, "Oh, must pay entrance fees" at the end. I was like, "Oh, whoops!" I just can't believe I just walked. And also, they said like, you should no walking, like should be in a truck and all that kind of stuff. And so I didn't even know that I was in a safari land.
Oh God.
It was in a place called Hui in South Africa, and yeah, that was really one of those that was interesting. Because I was wondering, I'm like, why are there so many giraffes and zebras everywhere? Like it's just roaming around everywhere. I didn't,
Wow.
because in wilder or more remote places like in Mozambique, the sad truth is that a lot of the people have been hunting them down, right? Like the elephants have been hunted down to feed the soldiers for war, and also killed by farmers because they raid their farms and kind of ruin their crops.
Hmm.
So, and elephants tend to move in big packs, so the entire family, if they come to your farm, you lose everything. And it's between your family or their family, and you're going to choose your own family, right? So, and then the soldiers that are in war, they're killing elephants because that meat will supply the entire you know army. So unfortunately, I didn't see as many wild elephants as I really hoped to see. Although you would see all these like elephant crossing signs, and that was like a really um kind of like stark, sad truth that like, whoa, there was like an abundance of elephants around here, and all of a sudden I didn't see a single one. And then I'm walking through an entire country. I'm walking through it, and I only saw it the one time when I encountered the wild
Wow.
one. Yeah.
I'm going to take it from my perspective and I'm going to ask you. There's two places in the world that I've been to that at least for me, when I'm there, there's there's a presence of God. Like for me, it's like there is a creator. It was standing at the edge of the Grand Canyon before I did the rim to rim, and then even going down into there too. You're just like, this is awe inspiring. And then in Yosemite, and I remember having lunch, I was rock climbing and I was halfway up Half Dome, hanging from a rope. Thousands upon thousands of feet down below are the trees, and you can't even see the people. It's so small. Hawks are flying by. I'm eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich hanging off a rope. And I'm just like, there's no way that there's not a creator. So from that's my perspective. You've been all kinds of places all over the world. Have there been places that have been truly magical? And then I guess my second part to the question is, did you find God, or you don't have a relationship, or that's not your thing? I mean, I guess that's a kind of a complex question, and I'm asking you too many things at once, but I'm curious.
Yeah, but I get the premise of the question, which is essentially, um, how could all this just be by chance, essentially? Um, and I think, what I question is like, when we say, when we ask that particular question, is like, we're coming from our perspective, and what I've essentially come to the conclusion of is that we're not as intelligent or all-knowing as we like to think that we are. The Dunning-Kruger effect, shows that people who know little think they know
That's
the most, and the people who know the most think very little because they know that there's so much more to know. And I feel like as a human species, I feel like we are at that beginning point where we absolutely don't know.
Yeah.
We really don't know. I think we're seeing the universe in a two-dimensional plane, and I guess I'm more on the agnostic side,
Okay.
where I believe that there could be something. I just don't know how it looks like yet, um, and I don't know necessarily, and I'm also not like hungry for that answer. I think
Okay.
whatever is presented before me is like good enough. You know what I mean? Like I feel like just to have this is a blessing. It's like when you give a child like, a piece, like the most delicious piece of cake or something like that. That child is not going to question. It's like, oh, who's the
That's
creator of
funny.
this cake? I think I think the child will just immensely enjoy it as best as possible. And I think, let's say if there is a creator in that sense, and when I say in the sense of like overwatching us,
Hmm.
he would probably want us to enjoy that cake,
Yeah.
right? I feel like, and that's kind of what I've set out in my life to do, which is to go out and really experience life to the fullest and enjoy it. And I've seen people worship and pray and understand the world in so many different ways. I've lived in Sharia law countries. I've been, I actually even lived with the Jews in Brooklyn. And I've been to all these different places and all these different religions, and it's just so, especially even indigenous ones, and it's just so beautiful how we all have different beliefs about different things. And
Hmm.
I think that to be someone that does not choose one particular religion, I feel like, let's say if there is a God and that God wants us to believe in one thing, then I think my odds are my odds are good, because if you don't, if there's like 100,000 different ones, one of them has to be wrong, right? I mean, they all have, so one of them has to be right, and the rest are wrong. So, what if you don't believe in any of them? And then I think my odds are higher than if you believe in one of them. Like statistically speaking, from
Yeah.
from a pure statistical point of view.
One of the people that we interviewed on our earlier podcast was Dan Mazur, who's a famous mountaineer, National Geographic Adventure of the Year, um, Into Thin Air, the book. He was there. He was one of the rescuers that the book spoke about. And I asked him, and then I asked another gentleman that snowboarded all the 7 summits of the world. So the question's coming to you because you are in that realm of adventurers, right? And you also are a highly awarded adventurer as well. Um, how do you conquer that internal voice when things get really tough? I know we all experience it. Our listener probably has it, even if it's like, I don't want to do the thing, or I'm tired this morning and I got a busy day. I shouldn't get up and go to the gym. We all have that, for the most part, the inner monologue
Mm.
that's saying no, don't. How do you conquer that? Because I would imagine at every single point, not just the 2.5 years across Africa, but even before that, was that voice saying, don't do that. Don't get out of your comfort zone. Don't step into every day the unknown. So how did you train your brain to basically not listen to it?
Mm. How do I train my brain to not listen to it? I think it started from an earlier age because I used to run track and field, and I ran the 400 meters, which is the uh, arguably the toughest. That and the 800 meters are the toughest races in track and field because you're always pushing lactate threshold to the limit, and anyone that knows what that feels like will, contest that this is the most painful experience you could ever have. It's like running a marathon and then like sprinting the last like 5K as fast as you possibly can. And that feeling of lactate at the end, where everything burns and it feels like a bear jumped on your back. You have to recreate the sensation every single day on the track. And the only way you can get better is you have to keep going there every time. You have to willingly put yourself through the most painful situation that you could possibly ever have. And over a number of years getting used to that, I developed a mindset that didn't necessarily ignore the voice in the head, because I think ignoring the voice can lead to some trauma at the end. But I think it's more of a translation of what my voices are saying. So if my voice is saying pain, it's saying development.
Yeah.
For instance, like, okay, my
Mm.
muscles are developing right now. And you feel that lactate threshold, and you can't even eat food right afterwards because of the gastric acid coming up your system, like it's crazy. And then you just say, well, it's processing. My body's processing. So if you look at your body and your mind in that sense, then I think it helps with understanding what you're going through. And if you understand what you're going through, then you can really push the limits further and further. And I think, those guys that you were talking about who push the limits, they've been doing it so many times repetitively that you just become better and better at it over time, right? It's just like any muscle. Like, if you're someone who can read like, 5 books a week on average, it's because you've developed the muscle to be able to do that faster and faster. I think it's like with literally anything. The mind is one of the most malleable things, I think, on planet Earth, or in the universe, actually, probably. And for me, I'll give you an example. When I was cycling across North America, I had never cycled long distance before in my life, and one day I just decided to go East Coast to West Coast, or sorry, West Coast to East Coast,
And
and
by the way, just as just to interject for a second, as a cyclist, for someone to decide to do that and not have built that
Right.
muscle,
Yeah.
that you're not gonna get the road rash, so to speak, right? Of
Yeah.
like the
yeah.
chafing is insanity. So okay, continue.
Oh, it was insanity.
Yeah.
But I knew in my
Understood.
mind that I have a high pain tolerance, and that I could also recover very quickly. Like my body tends to flow in the way that my body needs to be for a certain sport or activity. And I just didn't necessarily know how bad it was gonna be. It was bad. It was bad because I started in the West Coast, right? Like, I mean, that's where the mountains are, and
Yeah.
so immediately, I think it was literally it was day two or day three when I had to cross the ferry from Vancouver Island, and then I started to go up the Rockies. The reality hit so quick. Like, I'm just like, man, I was pushing my bike up the mountain
Mhm.
because you're going up 2,500 meters elevation, 15-degree angle, and you're just pushing the bike because you're like, there's literally no way I can do this. Um, and then there's a new reality where I had to learn how to like speed down the hill.
Scary.
I've never gone
Yeah.
more than like 40 kilometers an hour, and now all of a sudden I'm going 80 to 90.
Oh my
Very
gosh.
scary. And you're passing cars because they're not going that fast, so you're zipping by cars faster than and but I just kept telling myself,
Wow.
there's glory at the end. There is glory at the end. With the pain will bring glory. And essentially I kind of repeat this over and over and over and over and over to myself. It's almost like a drum beating. There's glory at the end. There's glory at the end, especially when the hill is going up really high, and then it's just like you think you're getting close to the peak, but then you're like, oh no, there's another kilometer left, and then
Mhm.
there's like another 5 kilometers left, and then you're like, oh, actually, it
Oh
was just like a little tiny
gosh.
dip, and then there's like 20 kilometers left, and, and that's when you just like you can't feel sorry for yourself. You can't really, say like, oh, this was a bad mistake. You just put down your head and you do the thing that you're supposed to do. It's just like, okay, I'm gonna pedal. I'm just gonna put one pedal down, next pedal down. And people say this all the time, one step at a time, but it is literally the thing that survived me. Walking
Yeah.
Africa, imagine walking Africa, how many steps you have to take? Millions of steps. And sometimes that could feel so debilitating to people that there's like such a huge distance. You're telling me that I have to, this is going to take me 2 months to cycle
It's
across.
crazy.
I have to do this every single day for 2 months. That's fucking insane. But you don't think about those things. You think about what's happening right now, and the ability to have awareness of the present moment is your superhuman power. If you can have if you can be fully aware and present in the moment that you're in while you're suffering and the pain is going through, while not thinking about the future, then you're in a good space, because the future is what will debilitate you. If you start to think, oh man, I don't think I'll finish, as soon as you say that, you're done. As soon as you say, I don't I you're done. I've never ever thought that, and on any of my expedition, that's why I've been able to succeed. I've never failed an expedition before, because I've never thought that. As soon as I think that, then I know that I'm done. Like the cycling across Canada, I was just like, oh, this is gonna be some fucking pain right now. this is gonna be this is gonna be really painful. But I also knew, and I could feel in my
That's
legs, I could
interesting.
feel which muscles were being developed, and I was like, oh man, like I'm
Wow.
being upgraded. These, like, like I felt new muscles I've never felt before. I was like, whoa, I didn't know. Like, what is this? A lot of
Wow.
all my quad muscles started to come out to the side, and I'm
Yeah.
like, this is insane. Like this is like a cool upgrade. Like
Wait,
when you put stuff on your car to make it go faster, it's exactly how I felt. Yeah, except the process, it was very painful, but knowing that, because I know what muscle pain for development feels like. As an athlete, you know what that feels like. I knew that that will be an advantage later on, and it won't be as painful.
it's the show growing up. There was the $6 million man, and the part of it was we
Yeah,
can rebuild him, and they retool him, and you're doing that in real time as you're going through
in
this.
real
Yeah,
time.
that's it. That's an empowering
Like I would,
feeling,
yeah.
though, right? It's just like,
It's an it makes you absolutely want to conquer what you're doing.
yeah.
Like now you're just like, okay, cool. Like I have the feeling like you're in your tent and you're in pain, but you're in pain in the right places. Like this
Well,
is
it's
good.
amazing too because you talked about your backpack, and it's like you have something that's organically developing another tool just by exercising it, and you're training yourself to be to be the most fit that you can do to accomplish this task. But you didn't start off with that. You didn't bring that. You trained and
Mm,
worked that muscle to enhance yourself to get to the goal,
mm,
which is that's an
mm.
incredible thought.
Right.
And
During the
what
expedition, I should have probably trained before the expedition, but I would say one of my worst qualities is that I'm very impatient. I just wanted to do the expedition, and I figured that the first few weeks of the expedition will be training.
Wow.
that's true.
Yeah.
Yeah. I want to be mindful of time, so I'm going to try to limit the remaining questions for you. But as someone who's been fascinated by Egypt, its history, the pyramids, what was it like walking in and being amongst, you know, objects that have been there for thousands of years?
I'm still trying to wrap my mind around it, to be honest. I stayed at a like a nice little cheap hostel, but it had a rooftop that overlooked the pyramids and the Sphinx. Every morning I would go up there and I would just be like, I literally walked to this place from the bottom of Africa to here. And I think even till this day, I still can't comprehend that. Like myself, like a lot of people can't comprehend it. I myself cannot comprehend the extent of the sheer distance of that. And not just necessarily distance, but the all the obstacles that you have to basically to make it there. If there was a time I believe that there was someone overlooking me, it would be have been throughout that walk. Because there are so many times that I should have been killed or I should have died. Cerebral malaria, getting shot at by rebels in Mozambique, uh, all kinds of like literally all kinds of things should have. Oops, sorry. All kinds of things should have prevented me from making it to Egypt, and then to see the pyramids made me feel a little bit more at ease with what I was doing. It made me feel more like, okay, I am just amongst an evolutionary species of humans in which we can do fascinating things all the time and anytime we want to, as long as you put your mind to it. These people built something that was at that time mind like just insanely mind blowing. Um, that withstood the what do you call it? That withstood time.
Yeah.
And I think it was appropriate for me to have arrived there because then it made my journey seem like it wasn't like the greatest thing ever. you know?
It's funny you said that because that's what I was gonna say. Is it's kind of I was gonna ask, did you purposely make the final destination Egypt because or Cairo because it's a profound architectural marvel of what the Egyptians, the pharaohs, built. And your own journey of getting there was an incredible and equally challenging feat in itself. So those two culminations of those incredible accomplishments came together in one at your life as you walked into the pyramids or walked
Yeah.
in amongst the pyramids.
Yeah, that's actually, yeah, you nailed it. That's exactly why I wanted to do it. I wanted to do it because I wanted to match something that I thought was a monumental thing for myself, at least,
Hmm.
to something that I would respect as well, um, at that same level. And just being there made me feel like I'm just a part of human evolution doing these great things. Like, you just feel like you're really a part of something. Like, yeah, you can fly there and, and that, like, it's still awe-inspiring. But imagine if you like walked there.
Yeah.
That is
Well, I
that
mean, also
feeling.
go back to the thousands of years when they were built and imagine when they're in their glory covered in the limestone that was
Mm,
polished, and that's people were walking to those,
yeah.
even in the BCE era, right before
Mm,
our common era. Egypt, the Great Pyramid, had tourism. Most people don't
yeah.
know that is that in the ancient times, the Romans would go, like the wealthy Romans would
Mm,
vacation to go see the Great Pyramids,
it's
and they
insane.
would get there by horse and by foot. And you relive that. You
Yeah.
walked into the realm of the Great Pyramid. So that's amazing.
Mhm. Essentially, yeah. I mean, they say that Cleopatra's time was is closer to our time than for her
Wow.
when they built the
Yeah.
pyramids, which is like an
Yeah.
insane thing to think about.
Yeah, they were ancient, like what we think is
Yep.
ancient times, the
Yep.
pyramids were ancient to them.
To
So,
them, to
yeah,
them, that's wild.
yeah. I would say the majority of people that are listening to this episode when it comes out, will likely realistically travel to maybe not even a quarter of the places you've been at this point in your life, and you still have much more time to live and places to go. If you can kind of share a lens of, you know, what places are cannot miss, should not miss for someone, that whether it's just the beauty, the experience, the people, whatever, those two or three places are. Do you have a list of favorites you can share?
I wouldn't say like a specific place, but I would say regions. I would say definitely everyone should travel throughout Southeast Asia. I think it's such a rich, strong culture. The food is incredible. The people are so hospitable. And I think just experiencing that journey itself um, can enlighten certain parts of you that you've never like seen before, whether that's within yourself or within other people. Because when we're in the West, we don't we might vilify humans because of how cold we are here, so that's how we think and perceive the world to be. But we're just a small bubble in this whole orchestra of life on Earth, to be honest. Definitely Africa, I would say. I haven't been to West Africa yet, and I plan to do that hopefully soon. But East Africa for sure. Like we're talking Tanzania, Kenya, Ethiopia, if you're really daring, because Ethiopia was one of the first places that gave me culture shock. where the people just live so differently, and things are literally reversed. Incredible, incredible
Can you give a quick
achievements.
example of that? Like what you mean things are so reversed?
Yeah, like like even with their languages, like first of all, there's like 14, very distinctive tribes that live throughout Ethiopia. And you have the Hammer people, and the so the Tigrayans, and all those different tribes and cultures. And over there, I feel like I'll give an example. So I arrived in a village, and I was by myself, and I went into this restaurant. And in this restaurant there were these women sitting down eating, and they eat this injera, which is the kind of bread that they have there, only grown in the regions of Ethiopia and surrounding Ethiopia. And I sat down, because there was no other place to sit except next to them. And this woman started, like, they were giggling and whatnot. And this woman started like feeding me. Like, she took her hand like this, got a bunch of injera with some meat on it, and she stuffed it in my mouth, like complete stranger. And she, and I was like, "Whoa, this is intrusive." um, for even for my standards, I'm like, "Oh, I've been to places, but this was a lot." But it taught me another level of like how people can be. It actually taught me it taught me about how being intimate with people can be different.
Was that?
If that makes any sense.
Hmm.
Is she trying to
That
hit
you
on you?
like
I'm
how
trying.
being
I don't understand.
sorry.
But is that like a comforting, nurturing thing? Is that showing affection?
Okay. So it's yeah, it's just showing affection, and men do it too. I've been fed by men.
Yeah.
This was just the first time it happened, so it was the most shocking. But I've had this been done to me by men that I've stayed with, and they would literally just feed me. They would put their hands in my mouth, like, and just like, and I was like, so shocked. By the time I left Ethiopia, I was so
Yeah.
used to it that I almost did it to my friends here in Canada. They're like, "Yeah, don't try that." But
Going back to San Francisco and you're at a
yeah,
sushi
yeah,
restaurant, you're like,
yeah.
where?
That's probably why they took stuff from my car. But no, but and so that was like a culture shock right there, amongst many other things, like even the way that they speak. A lot of the words are actually said backwards, like instead of, like, how when we speak, we exhale, the words, the
Wow.
sounds, but over there they inhale the sounds, some of them. And I'm just like, what? This is insane. And so it's really hard to
Yeah.
even speak the language just due to that fact. Like, it literally hurts my throat to try and speak Amharic or Tigrayan.
Yeah.
And
Puts a new meaning to
That's
eat
wild.
your own words, right?
absolutely, yeah, yeah, 100%, yeah. Yeah, there were many other things as well, but those were like some of the few things that really stood out for me. I would, yeah. So I would say, like, yeah, Eastern Africa, Ethiopia, Southeast Asia. Um, if you're not from Europe, I think to explore Europe is important, and not necessarily just to the popular sites that everyone goes to all the time, but just to understand the culture and customs of how Europeans are and how they've come together. I think this is a really important part of history, because we're in the phase of where, or in the culture that Europeans have built out, but now we're transitioning to a whole different world where we have Asia, like East Asia, becoming the top players. And then after East Asia will be probably Africa, eventually. So I think it's important to see the cultures that have developed who we are today in terms of how we how we interact with each other and all those different kinds of things. And I think travel also, another one too is the United States. I just did a road trip actually, a few weeks ago, sorry, a month ago. I drove I drove an electric car from Toronto to LA and back.
Yeah.
um
Wow.
99% of it was self-driving.
That's cool.
Wow.
I just wanted to push the technology to the limit. And it literally, the car drove itself. It was like the first road trip I've ever done where the car drove itself. Even
Jeez.
it drove itself even to the charging
Oh, that I
stalls.
could use.
Wow.
It would park itself too. Like we're talking like full full autonomy. So the car would drive itself, park itself. It was like one of the best road trips I've ever been on in my life because like those roller coaster rides that you do in Disney.
Hmm.
That's what it felt
Yeah.
like, except like without the nauseating ups and downs and
Ups
turns.
and downs.
But it's just more like those Disney ones where you're actually like you're seeing things and you're like, whoa, there's a waterfall, and then like, whoa, there's like people, and there's like a whole story around you. That's what it
Wow.
felt like. I went
Wow.
through Yosemite self-driving. And I went to the Grand Canyon, and I didn't have to touch the steering. I was like this. I
That's a
didn't have to touch the
trip.
steering
That
wheel.
it really
And I
is.
was
It's
just
like
like,
your own
whoa, this is
self-guided train trip.
insane.
That's amazing.
It
Wow.
really is crazy, right? And I think that is
Yeah.
I think that's the future. I think it's not even the future. It happened. Like, literally, guys, it happened right now. It just happened. It's not the future. It's right now. And I think it's only going to get better from now. And so I would say for a lot of people, yeah, explore the US. Like the US is such a beautiful place geographically speaking, with also with different cultures. And all the things that people say about Americans, I honestly, I didn't run into any problems at all. Like everybody was so awesome, everyone was so hospitable. I think people gravitates towards other people who are just genuinely curious about their culture, and they care. And I think that's it really. And you bring that mindset with
Yeah.
you wherever you travel. I think is more important than where you travel.
I have two final questions for you. One is, what's next? Do you have another big adventure planned, or are you going to take it easy for a while?
So I've been taking it easy for a while. I've been off for about 3 years from doing expeditions, and all that was to plan my next one, which is called Beyond Human. And Beyond Human is a circumnavigation of the world using only human power, summiting the
Wow.
seven summits. So the first phase of the expedition is to cycle from Toronto to Alaska, and then hike to Denali, and then summit Denali, and then cycle back down to South America to Argentina to climb Aconcagua,
Hmm.
and then cycle to
Oh my gosh.
Brazil, then kayak and or sail across the Atlantic Ocean, cycle across Europe to go to Elbrus, climb Elbrus, cycle down to Africa, Africa back up to Asia, and then to climb Kilimanjaro, and then to climb Everest, and then from Everest over to Papua New Guinea, and then from Papua New Guinea to Antarctica.
Yeah,
And this is all going to be done human powered, and I want to do it one shot as quickly as possible. So I've
that's
been
amazing.
training. I've been training more than I've ever been trained for any other expedition I've ever done. So I'm
Wow.
feeling pretty confident that it can be accomplished, and setting my mind in the direction of success. Also leads me to making sure I make all the
Wow.
right decisions. So
We're
this expedition
really looking
starts
forward to
the spring
seeing
of
that.
next year, so
That
Wow.
is
2026. Yeah.
otherworldly.
Wow.
I'll be
Wow.
going. I'll be on my bike.
Yeah. You're not messing around either.
I'm not messing around.
Denali Denali is one of the most dangerous mountains because of the cold, the wind that whips around the mountain.
Mm.
I got the first big mountain I was gonna climb was Denali,
Oh
and I
wow.
got approved for an expedition that had no like no professional guides. There's no guide service. It was just a group of climbers. At the time, this was a long time ago. I was working as a director of marketing for a healthcare company, and I remember I said to the my boss, I was like, I got approved to do this. I should be back in 2 weeks, but there could be a little bit of a weather window to get the plane off the off the glacier. So and he's like, I'm gonna approve it, but there's one thing I can't promise you. I was like, well, what's that? He goes, I can't promise you'll have a job when you come back, but I'm gonna approve your vacation time to do it.
Okay.
And that was one of the things that reminded me because I had been getting soft and stepped away from my own business to do this full time job, and it reminded me, what the hell am I doing, man? Like, I
Mm.
need to be controlling my own destiny. But anyways,
Mm.
besides that, that's super brave because that mountain is filled with crevasses.
Yeah.
You have to traverse across the glacier, which is super dangerous. And then once you get across the glacier, then you have to start for the summit attempt. And it's the wind that whips around that's really going to get you on the frostbite. So you're not
Mm.
messing around. You're not like starting with Kilimanjaro, which is a much
Mm-mm.
easier mountain. You're
Would
just
be.
going right into it, which
Yeah.
if you can do Denali, that's kind of the training they always say for
Right.
Everest. Like if you can handle the cold in Denali, you can do Everest.
Yeah. So Denali is the first mountain. In January, I am actually flying and doing some training. I'm gonna be climbing Kilimanjaro just because I got a free ride to climb it, and then I'm going to do Denali alpine training
Mm,
Okay.
in Washington with
okay.
Mount Rainier, and then
Rainier. Yeah.
Rainier, yeah, and then I'm going to be doing some climbs in Mount Washington as well. And historically they've been known to have like 90-kilometer winds and
Yeah.
also minus 40-degree weather. So I'll be going there probably 2 or 3 times before I even head to the before I even head off on the bike trip to Alaska, and then doing altitude training as well.
Well,
So I'm just trying to stay in this hypoxic chamber as much as I can throughout the week, like just basically getting my body used to lack of oxygen.
I have
But
a
yeah.
good buddy that is a climber that lives right by Rainier, and he does it all the time.
Mhm.
So if you're looking for someone to go climbing with when you go into Washington, reach out to me. I'll put you guys in touch.
Yeah, please do, because I'm going with a buddy of mine here in Toronto, and
and we
he
can
goes out there all the time as well. So it's always good to have an extra person.
Invest in a pair of Olympus Mons, my friend.
I don't know what
Yeah,
those are.
La Sportiva. They're the ones that
Oh,
make
last.
Olympus
Oh, yeah.
Mons boots. Those are the boots you want if you're gonna climb those kind of mountains because they are by far they are the boots. Like
Mhm.
there are thinner boots and lighter boots that like purists are going to be like, no, those are heavy. Those
Mm.
are the boots that make sure you come back with your toes.
Yeah. Yeah, I'd like to come back with my
yeah,
toes. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
because
right,
I'll have like a whole bunch of other mountains to finish.
right.
Yeah,
Kind of hard to kick through
yeah,
snow if you don't have toes.
yeah.
So,
And you know what?
all
Those
right, my friend. Yeah.
I'm actually that wasn't even the biggest challenge, to be honest. The biggest challenge really is how do I traverse across the Darien Gap, because
Mm.
I'll be actually kayaking along the Darien Gap from Southern Peru to Colombia. And then there's just like so many different traverses, and then cycling across
Wow.
the part of the Sahara Desert in Africa too. So yeah, it's a lot, but it's gonna be. I think it's gonna be a culmination of all the things that I love, that have led me up to this point, and it's either this or nothing, really.
So, can
Um,
we follow some of the things on your social media, at least during some of this
Yeah.
training while you're
Oh yeah,
preparing?
for
Yeah.
sure. Yeah,
Okay.
like my training is up there right now. Like
Okay.
I just posted a training today actually, and it's at Mario Rigby, and yeah, I'm gonna be posting everything. The whole thing's gonna be filmed, so
Wow.
I'll hopefully have a film coming out by the end of it,
Amazing.
and premiere it at the film festival.
That's
That's
amazing.
incredible. Final question.
Yes.
Since the show is built by love, what's what's changed your path or direction that has been attached to the love of people or purpose or place that is propelling you forward?
Strangers don't feel like strangers anymore. Strangers feel like long friends, or you know people that don't seem as distant as before you traveled. I feel
Mm,
like we're closer than we think. We're all under one roof on planet Earth. We share this vastly beautiful place. And I think together we need to work together in order for it to be sustainable. And so we can evolve into a type 1 civilization. We're not even there yet. In order to get into a type 1 civilization, which is to harness sustainably the energy of the earth so that we can all live abundantly, we have to first of all get along with each other before we even get to that stage.
yeah,
And I don't think we've quite nailed it yet. And so on this expedition beyond human, that's what I would like to showcase. I think this is an expedition that really transcends humanity into the next stage.
I love it. How can we find you online for the listener? Social media, I mean, website.
Yeah, you can follow me on Instagram at Mario Rigby, or on my website mariorigby.com. If you want to email me, info at mariorigby.com.
And that's Rigby, just for people in case you're listening while you're driving or something. So,
Yeah.
Mario,
Mm.
it's been an absolute pleasure. I could probably talk to you for like 3 more hours, but we just don't have enough time in the day. So, thank you,
Uh,
sir, for being on the Built by Love podcast.
Thank you guys for having these honest conversations and really great questions. I really
Yeah,
appreciate
it's been
this.
a joy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mm. Thank you.